Hey everybody, it's Mariana with 3 Peaks Classroom. If you are new to my channel, hello and welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. I am Mariana and I am a grade 3 and grade 4 teacher here in Alberta, Canada, and I love to make helpful YouTube videos for other teachers just like you. In today's video, I'm going to be continuing my cool new series where I am diving into my LA notebooks and I'm showing you what an exemplar lesson looks like from each one of my lessons in my notebooks. In today's video, I want to go over specifically how I introduce and how I teach paragraph writing in my grade 3 and in my grade 4 classroom. In today's video, I'm actually going to be referencing my writer's notebook from my language arts notebook series. I'm going to be referencing it a lot. So if you're curious about what I'm talking about, or if you want more information, you can just check the description of this video where you'll find a direct link. I have a grade 3 and a grade 4 version available right now in my shop. And as of filming this video, I am currently working on a grade 5 version. But basically my writer's notebook, these are all of the writing strategies that I teach to my students for the entire year. We keep it all in this one little notebook so that if the students are struggling with writing, or if they can't remember how to enhance their writing in a certain way, they can just go back and they can look at their writer's notebook and it gives them all of the strategies that we have covered for the entire year. And it's all directly related to the Alberta Program of Studies. So like I said, grade 3 and grade 4 are available right now in my TPT shop and grade 5 is coming soon. I will be referencing this a lot. So if you're curious, check out the description below. All right, let's jump right into today's lesson. So I'm going to show you what a model lesson looks like, or how I would introduce paragraph writing in my own classroom if I was teaching grade 3 or grade 4. Now, in my last episode in this series, I talked about how I like to structure my lessons with 4 things. So the first is I like to have a hook or something that engages the students. And we're going to talk about that in a second. So the first part is a hook. The second part is I want to move into defining the terms or the terminology, vocabulary, things like that, like what is specifically that we're learning about. And then the third section is we actually go into the instruction, which often involves building our foundational lesson in our language arts notebook. So that's the third part. And then the fourth is the gradual release of responsibility. So I will model the strategy on my own, and then we move into doing the strategy together as a whole class. Then we move into small groups where you do it together with a friend or 2 other friends. And then the final piece is you do it on your own. So I'm going to use that 4-part format and I'm going to show you how I introduce paragraph writing. So the first thing I would do on the day that I would be introducing paragraph writing is I would bring in these toys into the class. I wouldn't even mention paragraph writing. I would just bring in these toys and I would say, have you ever made a sandwich before? What do you like to put in your sandwich? Well, of course, we need to start with some bread. So I'm going to have the piece here. And what kind of meat do you like to put in your sandwich? Or maybe you just like to have a cheese sandwich. So here's let's say I have some deli meat. Maybe it's turkey or chicken. That sounds good. And then let's put some tomatoes on there. I like when my sandwich is colorful. There's a little bit of tomatoes. Oh yes, so here we go. Lettuce. I really like crispy lettuce in my sandwiches. That's really important. And then I like to top mine off with some cheese. That sounds really good. All right, here is a sandwich that I have made. Looks delicious. You can also do a hamburger version. So I have that right here. And this is the one that I'm going to model for my students. So here I have my hamburger bun. I have the top. And of course, I like to have cheese on my hamburger. I love cheeseburgers. And I'm not really a fan of tomatoes, so I'm going to pretend that that's ketchup. I love ketchup on my hamburgers. And then there's my hamburger patty. Put that there. And then there's the bottom part of my bun. There we go. Here is my hamburger. So what does a hamburger have to do with a paragraph? Well, we are going to learn about the hamburger method when writing a paragraph. So here, depending on time, you can extend the lesson a little bit. And if you have toys for everybody, or you can have them draw pieces of a hamburger and then build it themselves. Whatever you decide to do in this moment, you want to make sure that it's very hands-on and engaging. So you want to have something that they can manipulate with their hands. Another idea could be that they use Play-Doh. And so maybe you have different colors of Play-Doh and they roll out brown for the bun and red for the meat and orange for the cheese or whatever. So you want to actually physically build something so that they have a tactile experience with the lesson. So then we move into the defining part. Now I left the last part of my lesson and I said, we are going to be learning about the hamburger method of how we write a paragraph. And then I would take this and I would show my students, this is the hamburger method. You need to have a bun on the top and a bun on the bottom. And then we need to have at least 3 things inside of our hamburger. If we have just a meat burger like this, there's no ketchup, there's no cheese, there's no lettuce, that's not a very juicy or delicious hamburger. And same thing with a paragraph. It's not going to be a very interesting paragraph. And if you add in one more piece, it starts to get a little bit juicier, but we need to add at least one more thing. There we go. So then you tell your students, when you have 3 pieces in your hamburger, that's a really good start. And now, of course, you're going to have students that say, well, what if you add all sorts of things to your hamburger? Like you do something like this, right? And you would say, yeah, I mean, that does look delicious, but I can't even bite into that. My mouth is not that big to bite into such a big hamburger. And so this is too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off some of these pieces and I'm going to make 2 hamburgers. There's 1. And then here's 2. That is a lot more manageable for me. So then again, you are defining each of the sections. You are telling your students that a paragraph requires 2 buns, a top and a bottom bun, and fillings on the inside. I would continue and wrap up this defining part by saying, what do you think a paragraph is? Or have you ever heard of the word paragraph before? And then I would write on the board that a paragraph is a collection of sentences about one topic. That leads us into the 3rd part of our model lesson, and that is the instruction part. So now we're actually explicitly teaching our students how to write a paragraph. So we would get our writer's notebooks out, we would open to the next empty page, and I would get my students to glue in the title of this lesson. And I'm going to say, my friends, today we are going to be learning about how to write a really good paragraph. And so here's the title, Paragraph Writing. And I'll mention, if we ever forget how to write a paragraph, you can always go back to this page. Here is where it relates to our Alberta Program of Studies. Now, these are all specific to the grade. So if you're teaching grade 3, this will be specific to grade 3. Same thing in my grade 4, and I'm currently working on grade 5, like I mentioned. But if you look at this outcome, 7.1.2, I can create written text using a variety of forms and structures. Well, this is an example of a structured piece of writing. So then my students, in this case, they would get this piece of paper. It's kind of like a mini anchor chart in itself. And they would get this piece of paper that says how to write a juicy paragraph. And here you can see my hamburger, just like I have here. Hold on, can I grab it with one hand? There we go. There's my hamburger. And how does it relate? Well, of course, here is the bun of the hamburger. And why is that important? The bun of the hamburger is our topic sentence. If you didn't have the top of the hamburger, it wouldn't be a complete hamburger. It would be something would be missing. And then here are those fillings. Now, we talked about how if you only have one thing in your hamburger, it doesn't make for a very exciting or flavorful hamburger. So we need to have at least 3 parts to our hamburger. Here's a sentence to support. Here's another sentence to support. And there's our 3rd sentence to support. And again, that is exemplified and modeled in our hamburger building activity. And then the final part is the bottom part of the bun. Now, in this case, my buns are the same color. And I'll explain to students that when you're writing your conclusion, you're basically restating your topic sentence in a different way, but they should sound very similar. Just like in my picture, they look very similar. And after I've explained it all, I have here on the bottom a more detailed explanation. So if students forget what I'm talking about, or if they need to reference it, it's always here at the end. Now, specific to my grade 3 notebook, I do have a paragraph checklist because in grade 3, we are learning to write paragraphs. And so the students are checking to see, have I included a topic sentence? Have I included 3 sentences that support my topic sentence? Did I include my conclusion or closing sentence? And did I edit my work for spelling, punctuation, and capitals? So there is a checklist here that's side by side with the paragraph lesson, so the students can always refer to it. So now we move into the final part of the lesson, and this might be a different day. So let's say that is day 1. Day 2, we quickly review all of the things that we talked about in our language arts notebook, and then we begin our gradual release of responsibility. So I start by modeling my paragraph, and I would bring up the smartboard or a document camera or something like that, and I would type in real time with my students. using the hamburger method. And I would say, okay, my friends, I'm going to start with the top bun. This is my topic sentence, which means I'm going to state something, and then I'm going to write 3 sentences that support my statement. So for example, I might write a sentence about why spring is the best season in my opinion. So that would be my topic sentence. In my opinion, spring is the best season. Let me tell you why. Here's reason number 1, or my supporting sentence. There's lots of fresh green growth in spring. Okay, there's my first supporting sentence. The next one, the weather is finally starting to warm up. There's my next sentence. And the third one, the days are getting longer, which means I'm allowed to play outside for a lot longer. There we go. So spring is the best season. Here are my 3 reasons. And now this is the part that students struggle with the most, and that's the concluding sentence. So how can I take my topic sentence and how can I rewrite it so that it nicely wraps up my paragraph? So I'm talking about how spring is the best season. So on the bottom, I might say, in my opinion, for the reasons that I've stated above, I believe that spring is the best season in the year. So I said it a little bit differently, but it still sounds the same as my top sentence. So maybe I'm using like a blank template, like a hamburger like this, where I'm actually filling in the sentences here about spring being the best season. This gives my students a great visual on how to complete a paragraph. Next, we're going to move into a paragraph that we write all together. And so I'll come up with, or I'll ask the students, what should we write a paragraph about? Let's think about, let's think about a topic here. Let's say that we should all go on a field trip to the zoo. Yes. All right, let's write a convincing paragraph. 3 reasons why our class deserves to go on a field trip to the zoo. So using the same format, using the same fill in the blank exemplar template, I would have my students tell me some suggestions. So I would write up, our class 3B is interested in going to the zoo for many reasons. There's my topic sentence. And then we would list, and I would get the students to tell me their ideas, and then we would write that up. And we would model writing this paragraph together with my help. Then we move into the you do it together in a small group. And here's where I had a little bit of fun. So recently I had a chance to model this lesson in a grade 4 class at my school, and I challenged them with pieces of paper, and I challenged them to sort the papers into a paragraph. So can you pick out a sentence that could be your topic sentence? Could you find the supporting sentences? And the discussions that came up from the sorting activity was really interesting, because although students had different supporting sentences in different order, they realized that it really doesn't matter what order you put your supporting sentences in, because it all serves to support the topic sentence. And then even then, the topic sentence and the concluding sentence, students had interchanged them, but after we read the different versions, it all still made sense, and they all still supported and concluded and wrapped the paragraph very nicely. So through this activity and through the discussions, the students were able to see that a nicely written paragraph can be arranged in many ways, but it still needs to have a topic sentence, juicy middle part with the 3 supporting sentences, and then a concluding part on the bottom. Any way that you arrange it, it's still a nicely wrapped paragraph. Depending on the time, this might be a natural way that you end the second lesson. And then when you move into the third lesson, you review everything that we've done up until that point. Perhaps you have a new sorting activity where you and a student and a partner now have to sort the sentences into a paragraph. And then you would move into the final part of the activity, which is you give the students the opportunity to write a paragraph. Now that could look like you giving them the sentence starter, and then they have to fill in everything else, or maybe they think of a topic on their own. But by the end of this lesson, students should be able to at least produce some sort of a paragraph for you at the end of this lesson. If I look at my grade 3 year plans, which are all aligned with the program of studies here in Alberta. If you look at January specifically, I have paragraph writing as the topic for the first 2 weeks in January. So I am not introducing paragraph writing until January in grade 3, and we're working on it for 2 weeks. So the first week is just this. I'm just introducing the foundations on how to write a paragraph, and we're practicing it and modeling it all the time. And then in week 2, we're still practicing it, but this time I've introduced the checklist so that when they finish their paragraph, now they can reference the checklist. But that doesn't mean that after these 2 weeks, we're done. That just means I've introduced it in January, but for the remainder of the year, for the last 5.5 months of the year, we are going to practice writing paragraphs for various topics for the remainder of grade 3 or grade 4. So I hope you enjoyed this episode on how to write a paragraph in my How to Teach Lesson series. If you enjoyed this lesson, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any other future episodes coming out in this series, but also on my channel. I like to post weekly videos every Sunday. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. If you are looking for any of the materials that I've talked about today, whether that is my year plans for grades 3 and grade 4, or my notebooks for grades 3 or grade 4, you can check out the description of this video. It'll take you right to the product, and then you can have a look at the description. And I'm also currently coming out with a grade 5 version as well. So at the time of recording, I am working on it. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.